You know who else got smothered yesterday?
Ole Miss, baby. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Ole Miss and Georgia kicked it off in Athens last night. Joe, the one thing, and I thought you were so spot on when you tweeted this last night, this Georgia team is scary when they can run the football like this, and they ran it right down Ole Miss's throat. And it's not like Ole Miss has a great defense. They don't. But Carson Beck had a late first half turnover, but it didn't matter because Kendall Milton was going absolutely bananas. He had 9 carries, 127 yards, 14.1 yards per rush, 2 touchdowns. Edwards had 60 yards and 2 scores, and Carson Beck had another really good game. Defensively, they look good. Joe, on what was it? Was Monday or Wednesday? And Ole Miss fans attacked me for this. I came out and said that if you cannot convert on third down, Georgia is going to absolutely smoke you. Joe, they went 6 for 15 on third down, 2 for 4 on fourth down, 8 for 19 overall on conversion downs. You're not being able to get past the 50% mark on third and fourth down conversions total. It's why you can't do that against Georgia. They will slaughter you if you can't stay on the field. You were able to do that with Quinshon Judkins in the first drive of the game. That's why you were able to go down and score. You can't beat Georgia if you're not converting on third down. I said, I know that this might not be simple, but if you don't get to the 60, 70% mark on third downs, they're going to kick your ass. Well, by God, here we are. And Georgia just absolutely rolling again. I know Ohio State fans are gonna hate me saying this. There is a number 1 team in the country, a new number 1 team in the country. How anybody cannot have Georgia at number 1, you're absolutely insane if you don't have them there. They are the best team right now to me in the country.
I jokingly tweeted this out. The committee's going to come out and have Georgia at number 3, and they're going to be like, "Well, Michigan had a really hard-fought battle against Penn State, so we're gonna move them up to 1, and we didn't want to move Ohio State back too far. So I think Georgia is going to look nice and good at 3." And they're going to try and find ways to discredit this Ole Miss win. Look, for me with Georgia, it's the same thing that I've been saying over the past few weeks. Don't let this team get healthy, man. This team is getting healthier and healthier. They just got I know we talked about Brock Bowers coming back and the importance of that, but Amarius Mims coming back is probably the most crucial thing for them because their offensive line has been strong. It's been consistent, but that kid is a first-round talent. That kid is a freakish talent, and he is a mauler. Having him back is only going to improve the run game, and we saw what they did yesterday. I tweeted this out, and I think that my thoughts on Georgia are pretty clear here. The way that they inflict attrition on their opponents is just at a completely different level. And they
beat the shit out of everybody.
It makes it so hard to keep up with them and to play with them. The first couple of drives, you're going to score. You're going to find ways to get down the field. It happened against Ole Miss, happened against Mizzou. It's happened in other games so far this year. But we watch the game go on, and the defensive line starts to convert early snaps into pressures, then into sacks. And the offensive line starts to convert 3-yard gains into 5-yard gains into 15-yard gains. They just keep body blow after body blow. They are so physical, similar to what we just talked about there with Michigan. If you have a physical football team in 2023, you are going to be very hard to beat. I do not see a path that Alabama can beat this football team. I really do think that Georgia, without a doubt, is the best team in the country, and there should be no debate.
I do see a path. I will admit, I do see a path. I'm not going to completely give them no credit that they can't upset them. But I think you hit the nail on the head here. They are getting healthy. Brock Bowers is back, is a massive thing, but I don't think it really mattered. I think they can win with, as crazy as this is going to sound, Brock is amazing. They can win without him. Okay, like I still could see a scenario where they win it all without him. Felt like he was a decoy early, got some catches in there, but Ladd McConkey going off, okay? But the biggest thing for me in this game is really simple. Joe, Ole Miss pretty much got blanked in the second half. They scored 3 points. 4 of the 5 drives was either a turnover on downs or a punt. They suffocated them defensively. And it's not as if that Lane didn't – I thought Lane called a really good game. To be real with you, I thought – some of the things that he drew up, I was like, damn, Lane's in his bag. They just can't convert. Jackson Dart's all over the place. He's wild. That O-line was absolutely abused. Quinshon Judkins, man, credit to him. I know that he only had 75 yards. I know he had 2 scores. Okay, but he was running tough, getting 2, 3, 4 yards. It didn't matter because in the second half, Ole Miss got blanked. Kirby at halftime, I thought, said something really interesting. He's like, yeah, I don't like how we're just giving up easy stuff. I hate it. And my God, he must have said something in the locker room that sparked them.
Yeah.
Because they blanked Ole Miss. That's, Joe, what's crazy is that all we've heard about Georgia all year is they hadn't played nobody. Well, they've played 2 top 15 teams in back-to-back weeks and physically have dominated at times. Missouri, not so much, but Ole Miss for sure that they did. Obliterated them. I just don't know. Unless Georgia is off their game, okay, which it can't happen. And I don't look, it's hard to win 3 straight natties. It rarely ever happens. It's only happened once.
Minnesota,
as the president said one time. Minnesota. Okay. Was it Minnesota? I felt like it was.
They threw up a graphic and I think it was during the game. I think it was Minnesota from 1934 to 1936, which is insane. Insane.
Well, talk now with PJ Fleck, row the boat. Yeah. Look, I just don't know if there's anything that they do bad. I don't know if there's any unit on their team that's below average or average. I know that maybe you could say receivers, but Ladd McConkey, when he's healthy, nobody stops him. Brock Bowers, right. Thomas, all those dudes. Okay. Yeah. Like, I don't know if they're just the best overall team to me. I'm going to continue to say it. I just don't know. I think they're beatable. Don't get me wrong. I think you could still beat them.
Yes. I know it sounds like I'm like going completely gonzo over here saying that this team is the greatest thing that's ever stepped on the earth. Know that they're not the greatest college football team of all time. They're not even the best version, the best iteration of Georgia. Last year's Georgia team was arguably way better, but we're starting to see signs. The fact that I think a really good signal to me that this team is good is the fact that Jamon Dumas-Johnson, who is such an important piece to this defense in the middle, playing that Mike Backer role. I was a really big fan of evaluating him over the summer as a 2024 draft prospect, and they threw a freshman in there. And the fact that kid, who is a highly recruited player, who was somebody who is that next up guy, goes off and plays his ass off because, one, he's excited to be out there. He's playing with his boys. It looks like he's just out there having fun and hitting people. The fact that you see that from an underclassman make a performance like that is a sign to me that they are built to continue and go on another run and make it at the bare minimum. I will put on the table, if people want to disagree with me, make it to the national championship again, because they have the depth and because in every single position group, they're really strong. And I think Carson Beck, man, deserves the credit for the way that he has set this team up, because even with some deficiencies at receiver, as you talked about, that some people might argue, he still finds ways to set his guys up. Right. Right.
It might not be conventional on the way that you look at it. Okay.
Yeah.
And Joe, I say this about quarterbacks all the time. I think they had it exactly with Stetson Bennett a year ago. They might not look like the Marvin Harrisons or the Malik Neighbors of the world. Okay. Right. They might not look like that. But let me tell you something. They might as well call Ladd McConkey 7-Eleven, because that sumbitch is always open.
And Carson Beck keeps finding ways to set up his guys for success. Look at all the yak, man. Look at all the extra yards after the catch.
It's insane, dude. Yeah. It's insane. So here's the question that I would pose. Now, Georgia fans are going to kill me for this, but I'm going to ask the question. Is Carson Beck going to finally have a bad game? Because he hasn't. And I'm not saying it would be unprecedented, because I don't think that Bryce Young necessarily ever had like a really bad game. He's had some bad ones where he's completed only 50% of his passes. Carson Beck is not doing that. Like the interception, okay, I thought a good throw that got batted up in the air and was picked off. It was not on him, really.
Right.
Okay. But I look at him and think, Joe, that look, if you're not careful, he will light you up. He will light you up. And I think Mike Bobo's in his bag. I love the way that he calls plays. Love the way that he calls plays.
I think that if Carson Beck does end up having a bad game,
it's going to be against Bama. It's going to be against Bama.
Right. And I know Bama fans think I'm the biggest hater in the world, and I think your team's bad. And I've said this, that defense is elite. It is top 3 minimum, one of the best defenses in college football for how well-rounded it is. So if Carson Beck has a bad game where he goes 50% and throws a pick or two and doesn't go over 250 yards passing, it's going to be against Alabama. It's going to be against Bama.
Well, they look phenomenal. Joe, 300 yards rushing, 300 yards passing.
Insane.
600 yards. And by the way, you know what's crazy?
What?
Still not enough yards at more than Jaden Daniels.